What's up, everyone? With Avengers Endgame looming very rapidly, I thought it was best that I rank all 21 MCU movies up to this point. This is going to be a very long list, so let's waste no time. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 21, we got Captain Marvel, the recently released Captain Marvel. Overall, this movie's bland, it's forgettable, it's generic, it's not horrible, but it ceased to exist in my opinion, and it does a lot of stupid things. But overall, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. Coming in at number 20, Thor: The Dark World. This movie, to me, when it first came out, it ceased to exist. It's not horrible, but it's really hard to remember anything from it. 6.5 out of 10 for Thor: The Dark World. Number 19, Black Panther. In my review, I gave Black Panther. I was very lenient towards Black Panther, and I gave it an 8. But the more times I rewatch it, the more I find it hard to like certain things in this movie. So I'm giving it a 6.5. And by the way, the award for the most cringiest monologue goes to Michael B. Jordan. Ancestors and slave ships, shut the fuck up, you entitled millennial. Not Michael B. Jordan the person, but his character Killmonger. Fuck you. And fuck your stupid monologue, it was cringe. Coming in at number 18, Iron Man 3. I make no bones about it. Iron Man 3 is my least favorite Iron Man movie. The twist pissed me off. Not because of how they changed the Mandarin from the comic books. I hate the twist because they had a good idea going by the Mandarin being this Nazi who was hiding out in the United States, but to have it all be a ruse, that really left a bad taste in my mouth after walking out of the theater. And yes, Iron Man still gets a 6.5 out of 10 for me. I have grown to dismiss it now that I watched the movie, but that it still lingers in my head. Coming in at number 17, Thor. Good introduction to Thor. Again, when you say Thor, I want cosmic adventure. But this tells more of a grounded Earth story. I guess it's okay. It's not really all that interesting. I give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's above average. It's not a horrible watch. It's a breeze. You can watch it and not get bored of it. But it doesn't really say anything that's not really worth mentioning. Coming in at number 16, the first Ant-Man movie. This was a good introduction to a character that I was familiar with but never really knew a whole lot about. Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd. Together, those two make this movie watchable. And it does have some good story moments here and there. I give it a solid 7 out of 10. Coming in at number 15, Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 is a movie that is very ambitious. It tries to tell a good story. It's bogged down by a lot of nonsense. The villain, played by Mickey Rourke, is interesting on paper, but the execution isn't all that great. But at the end of the day, I enjoy Iron Man 2. I give it a 7 out of 10. I like it better than Iron Man 3. Coming in at number 14, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like its predecessor, Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas make this movie watchable. The villain, while is interesting, it's not really much of a threat. However, the inclusion of the Wasp as a full-fledged character gets, is good in my book. And this movie, to me, actually has a lot more funny moments than the first movie. I give the Ant-Man and Wasp a solid 7 out of 10. Alright, coming in at number 13, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 1. To this day, I still think the first Guardians movie is extremely overrated, but I do enjoy it for what it is. I like it. It's a good introduction to characters that, if you're not familiar with comic books, you have no idea who these people are. So, for what it is, I give Guardians number 1 a solid 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 12 is Guardians Volume 2. I think Volume 2 is a better movie than Volume 1, a better villain, a better story. It still has things that I'm not really all in for, but overall I think Guardians 2 is a better constructed movie. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Coming in number 11, Thor Ragnarok. This was the Thor movie I wanted. This was the Thor movie I thoroughly enjoyed. I had a lot of fun with Thor Ragnarok. This movie has it all. It's Jack Kirby on steroids, and it's just a blast to watch. It does have a weak villain, and that does and it does have a weak villain that I'm not really behind. Hela didn't do anything for me, but the overall movie itself is a fun ride. I give Thor Ragnarok a solid 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 10, now we get to the top 10. Coming in at number 10 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man made his debut in the Civil War movie. He gets his own movie in Homecoming. For a first outing with Spider-Man in now a shared universe, I thought Homecoming was very, very solid. Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes the Vulture, probably the best Marvel villain up to this point. I know everybody loves Loki, but take Loki out of the picture. In terms of an individual villain, I think Michael Keaton as Vulture had a more grounded menace to him. And it's Michael Keaton. The man is a phenomenal actor. I love Michael Keaton. He's my favorite actors of all time. So yeah, Homecoming to me gets a solid 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 9 is Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, Age of Ultron is a movie that is split right down the middle. You either like it or you don't like it. I happen to like Age of Ultron. I think Age of Ultron is a really good movie. It does have things here and there that I'm not really big on. And yes, the movie, there are moments where the scenes do drag on longer than they should. And it does disrupt the pace a little bit. But overall, I think Ultron's a good movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. Solid 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 8, The Incredible Hulk. Now, in my initial review, I gave the Hulk a 9 out of 10. But the more I watch The Incredible Hulk, it does have problems that are very, very noticeable. But taking that to the side, this is still a very fun Hulk movie. It's a good introduction. It's a good reintroduction to the Hulk character. And I love Edward Norton's performance as Bruce Banner. And I'm still, to this day, very bummed out that he never got the chance to be part of the big universe. But Incredible Hulk, retconning it to an 8 out of 10. I still really, really like this movie. One of the better Phase 1 movies. Coming in at number 7 is the first Iron Man movie. Now, this was the game changer. Iron Man is what the MCU is built on. If this movie would have failed, the MCU would not be what it is today. And for a first outing, Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie, great movie. To this day, I consider Iron Man, the first Iron Man, to be the best out of all the 3 Iron Mans. Downey's performance was fantastic. The villain Obadiah Stane was great to itself, and the seeds of the cinematic universe all start with Iron Man 1. I give it an 8 out of 10. Great movie, love it. Coming in at number 6 is Captain America: The First Avenger. I think overall, Captain America: The First Avenger, like The Incredible Hulk and Iron Man, is one of the better Phase 1 movies. And like Iron Man, a lot was riding on Captain America: The First Avenger, because at the end of the day, this movie is the foundation of the universe. Because everything everything that we knew goes back to the first Avenger, being that it predates everything, takes place in World War I, introduces us to Steve Rogers, and I think overall, Captain America: The First Avenger did the job, and it did the job extremely well. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 5 is the first Avengers movie, The Avengers. I think to this day, The Avengers is one of those movies to me that still holds up. It's still a fun movie, and it's still a marvel to look at that the first 4 years of the MCU needed the success of the first Avengers movie. If the first Avengers movie would have failed, then the MCU would have crumbled, and all that work that went up to that point would have been all for nothing. But since the Avengers made billions, it's only now that we're talking about the cinematic universe the way we are talking about it now, 10 years after it's got its initial start with Iron Man. To me, Iron Man was the foundation. The Avengers is the castle that was built on that foundation. Deserves that 9 out of 10. Coming at number 4 is Doctor Strange. I've been a Doctor Strange fan for so long. I remember watching the old 90s Spider-Man cartoon and seeing Doctor Strange make an appearance here and there. Not only that, you have one of my favorite actors in Benedict Cumberbatch playing the good doctor himself. And this is just an overall very trippy, mind-bending movie that if you got to watch it while you're high, because it's going to be a freaking trip. I can't wait to do it one day. But yeah, Doctor Strange for me gets a 9 out of 10. I love Doctor Strange. I think it's one of the better origin movies that the MCU has put together. Coming in at number 3 is Captain America: Civil War. This was the Russo brothers' second outing as directors, and this was the movie that pretty much convinced Marvel that if they can contain this ensemble cast and complex storytelling, then they can handle what they did in Infinity Wars. And I think Civil War was just a great movie all around. It's a continuation of The Winter Soldier, This is the movie that introduced us to Black Panther and Spider-Man, and in my opinion, to this day, this movie still is the best utilization of the Black Panther character. You gave him motivations. You made me like him. I had reasons to like him. In Black Panther's own solo movie, I had no reasons to like him. But in Civil War, I had a legitimate reason to get behind this man. And I think the Russo brothers did it perfectly. Civil War to me gets a 9 out of 10. Nearly perfection. Nearly perfection. Coming in at, now we get to the top 2. Now, when I was doing the top 2, I was debating whether or not I should switch them around. But I'm glad that I didn't, because at the end of the day, I still prefer my number 1. But it was very, very close. But coming in at number 2 is Avengers Infinity War. I recently did a review of Avengers Infinity War. I said what I needed to say in that review. I love Infinity War. This movie is grand. It's grand scale. It's high stakes. It has an interesting and complex villain that you're sympathetic towards, but you don't fully get behind him because he still maintains that menace. The Russo brothers do an excellent job at pretty much handling every single MCU character that was put on film up to this point, and they juggled them all. They juggled them all perfectly, and everyone had their moment to shine, which is fantastic. I can't say anything more good about Infinity War. It deserves the perfect 10 that I gave it. And coming in at my number 1 is Captain America: Winter Soldier. I love Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This movie is everything I want and then some. This is the perfect sequel to a Captain America movie. It builds on the first Avenger. We get fallout from the first Avengers movie, as well as Captain America's first movie. Storylines, the story gets built up. We get the return of Bucky as the Winter Soldier himself. We get a really underrated villain in Alexander Pierce, played by Robert Redford. We get some good interactions with Cap and Nick Fury. And it's just an overall great movie. We get introduced to Falcon, who is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. And pretty much, the events of the Winter Soldier with the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D. still has had long-term effects on the MCU as a grand whole. So yes, the first Avenger is one of the most important movies in the MCU. So yeah, highly give that movie a 10 out of 10. Perfect 10. So yeah, those are my overall rankings of all 21 MCU movies up to this point. Let me know your rankings in the comment sections down below. Like this video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.